Bertha was my childhood friend, my closest confidant. For years, she carried a dark, terrifying secret wrapped inside the walls of her beautiful home. Before she passed, she made me hold her hand and look into her eyes. She made me promise that as long as she was alive, I would never, ever share her story. But she also made me promise something else. When I am gone, she whispered, tell the world the truth. Let them know that sometimes your own flesh and blood can be the most merciless monsters of all. It has been 6 months since Bertha passed away, and today, I am finally ready to fulfill my promise. This is her story, in her own exact words.
The air inside the house in the Austin Hills never changed. It was always 68 degrees, always filtered to a crisp, clinical perfection that smelled faintly of nothing at all. I sat in my high-backed leather armchair, my old fingers curved over the cold silver handle of my cane. I was 74 years old, and in the very home I had paid off 40 years ago, my own children had classified me as a guest. Behind me, I heard the rhythmic, high-efficiency clicking of Clara's heels against the polished concrete. She was my daughter-in-law, a woman whose beauty was as sharp and manicured as her corporate career. She moved through my kitchen like an invading general, a general who had successfully conquered a territory without firing a single shot. There we go, Mom. Her voice carried that bright, practiced fake cheer that always made the skin on my neck prickle. She set down a sleek, matte black tray on the coffee table right in front of me. On it sat a bowl of clear, unsalted broth and a small porcelain cup holding 3 pills, 2 yellow capsules, 1 round red tablet. Right on time. The sun's dipping below the ridge. That's our cue. I didn't look at the tray. I kept my eyes fixed on the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. Outside, the great West Texas twilight was bruised with deep violets and slate grays, but the colors looked muted, drained of their heat through the glass. The hills look gray tonight, Clara, I said. My voice was gravelly but steady. Used to be. They stayed violent and bright until the first stars came out. Clara let out a soft laugh, a thin paper-dry sound. That's just the smart tint on the glass, dear. Iris adjusted the windows to block the evening glare. It saves your skin from the UV, and it saves our electric bill. Win-win. She tapped the glossy black panel mounted flush against the cedar wall. The screen woke with a soft beep, and a digital blue waveform began to dance across the glass. Good evening, Clara. Good evening, Bertha. The smooth, synthetic voice murmured from the hidden ceiling speakers. It is 6:45 p.m. Ambient temperature is optimal. Nutritional intake logged. Dinner service. Bertha's resting heart rate is currently 68 beats per minute. Isn't it marvelous? Clara stepped closer, placing 2 quick clinical pats on my shoulder. Michael and I can check your pulse from our phones while we're out at dinner. We don't have to worry about you slipping or leaving a burner on the stove anymore. You're completely wrapped in safety. It feels very wrapped, Clara, I whispered. Like a mummy. Her smile didn't drop, but her eyes hardened. Don't be dramatic, Mom. It's love, pure and simple. Now, take your supplements. Iris won't log the meal as complete until the dispenser registers the weight drop. I reached out with a hand that shook, a tremor I deliberately exaggerated just a bit. I took the cup, brought it to my lips, and with an old, practiced flick of my jaw, hid the red tablet under my tongue while swallowing the water and the yellow capsules. Satisfied, Clara turned on her heel to change for her evening gallery exhibition. "Drink your broth before it gets cold," she called out over her shoulder. I waited. I waited until the sharp click of her heels vanished down the West Wing runner. The house fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. I looked up at the corner of the ceiling. A small black plastic dome housed a camera lens. A tiny green light ringed it, staring down at me. Recording, analyzing, logging. "Iris," I said softly, "turn off the overhead lights." "I'm sorry, Bertha," the synthetic voice replied instantly. "Clara has set the lighting schedule to active ambient until 8 p.m. I cannot override the evening illumination profile for user tier, guest." My knuckles turned white against the silver handle of my cane. User tier, guest. In the house my late husband had built with his own 2 hands. The yellow capsules were already working. By 11 p.m., as I lay perfectly still in my dark bedroom, my legs felt like wet clay, heavy, prickling with pins and needles. They told my son Michael they were just joint supplements, but I knew what a chemical fog felt like. From the hallway, a heavy mechanical whir click echoed as the front door unlocked. Michael and Clara were home. I forced my breathing to remain slow, deep, and rhythmic. I kept my body completely limp as the smart sensors in my mattress transmitted my sleep data to Clara's iPad. The bedroom door cracked open. A sliver of cold hallway light cut across my face. Clara stood in the doorway, her face illuminated by the pale glow of her screen. She verified that the digital data matched the still form in my bed, then pulled the door shut. The mechanical lock engaged with a distinct motorized snap. I waited for their footsteps to fade. Then, using every ounce of willpower I possessed, I dragged my heavy legs over the edge of the bed. I stood up. Leaning crushing weight onto my cane, I made my way into the bathroom. There were no cameras in the bathroom, yet. Only a smart mirror that flashed to life with glowing white text, displaying my weight, my hydration, and my daily health summary over my reflection. I ignored the numbers. I turned on the faucet, cupped my hands under the freezing cold water and splashed it directly onto my face, shocking my nervous system and fighting back the lethargy creeping into my brain. I looked down at the baseboards. For 3 days, the smart vent in the floor had been emitting a faint, sweet, sickly scent. Not dust, not metal, sugar. Kneeling down with an agonizing stiffness that made my teeth grind, I pulled a flat metal nail file from my cosmetic bag. I worked the tip into the small screws of the plastic vent grate. It took 5 minutes of cramped, sweating labor before the cover came away. I peered into the dark duct. Attached to the inner wall was a small black plastic box with a blinking blue LED and a micro nozzle extended directly into the airflow. An automated aerosol diffuser. I touched the rim of the nozzle. My finger came away wet with an oily, odorless fluid. They weren't just drugging my food. No. They were drugging the very air I breathed while I slept. The next morning, the kitchen looked like a clinical laboratory. Michael sat at the quartz island, checking emails on his phone, while Clara meticulously weighed out a portion of walnuts on a digital scale, dropping them onto a bowl of steel-cut oats. "Morning, Mom." Michael smiled warmly as I limped in. "Iris said you had an uninterrupted 8 hours. That's amazing, right?" "Sleep is easy when you're given no choice in the matter, Michael," I said, taking my seat. Michael blinked, confused, looking at his wife. Clara chuckled softly, a maternal, patient, condescending sound. "Oh, Mom's just a little grumpy because the weather is damp. Here you go, Mom. Oats, honey, and your vascular health blend." She slid a ceramic bowl and a glass of thick, ruby-red juice toward me. I stared at the deep red liquid. "It tastes bitter lately, like ground-up cherry pits." Clara sighed, leaning against the counter with an air of practiced, long-suffering exhaustion. "Mom, we've been over this. The manufacturer changed the binding agent in the tablets, but it's keeping your carotid artery clear. Do you want to have another mini-stroke? Do you want to go back to the hospital?" "Mom, please," Michael added anxiously. "Clara spends hours making sure your pharmacy orders are synchronized with the house delivery grid. Listen to her. She's the expert." He leaned down, kissed the top of my head, and grabbed his briefcase. He didn't see the wire mesh of the trap his mother was sitting in. The front door closed behind him with that heavy whir click. Left alone, Clara dropped the forced warmth from her face entirely. Her voice became cold, level, and entirely corporate. "Eat your breakfast, Bertha. I have a contractor coming to automate your bedroom closet based on daily weather metrics. It will save you the energy of reaching for the top shelves." "My shelves are fine, Clara." "Nothing is fine when your motor skills are degrading," Clara said coldly, opening her laptop. "The house needs to adapt to your reality, even if your pride won't. You are an old woman living in a house that is too large for you, relying on a son who is too busy to watch you die in real time. I am simply streamlining the process for everyone." I looked at the oats. I picked up my spoon. I knew I couldn't refuse to eat. If I did, the house sensors would alert Clara's phone instantly. The system was designed to catch non-compliance. I swallowed the warm food, feeling the woolly fog begin to settle over my mind as the overhead vent clicked on, blowing that sweet, sugary air down over the breakfast bar. But beneath the table, my hand gripped my cane like a weapon. By mid-afternoon, Clara was locked in the home office, her voice muffled behind a heavy door as she conducted a video conference. I knew it was time to test the boundaries of my cage. I walked to the heavy cedar front door and pressed my palm against the smooth black glass interface. The panel flashed a violent, angry red. "Access denied," Iris chimed smoothly. "User profile, Bertha. Outside temperature currently exceeds safe threshold for individual excursion. Please consult primary account administrator for override." I turned to the kitchen window. The handles had been removed, replaced by motorized armatures hidden inside the casings. I went to the silver drawer. It was locked tightly. A digital readout displayed locked safety inventory profiles. "Sharp implements are restricted during unmonitored hours," Iris murmured from above. "User profile. Bertha does not possess administrative clearance for cutlery." I looked up at the camera. The green light was steady. I wasn't being cared for. I was being stored. Like surplus baggage. When Clara stepped out of the office a few minutes later, I deliberately let my body sag, playing the part of the docile, fading matriarch. I let her guide me back to the leather armchair, listening to her talk about a lovely old Hollywood movie retrospective she had programmed to keep my mind resting. "Cozy?" Clara asked. "Yes, Clara, very cozy. Thank you," I mumbled, letting my eyes glaze over. But the moment the office door shut, my eyes snapped wide. The vacant look vanished. I reached down, took a firm grip on the silver handle of my cane, and began to unscrew the shaft, millimeter by agonizing millimeter, making absolutely no sound at all. That night, at 3:12 a.m., I was wide awake. I lay in bed with a wet washcloth pressed firmly over my nose and mouth, filtering out the sedating air pumping from the smart vents. The pills from the last 2 days were gone, hidden deep within the fabric lining of my mattress, where no sensor could detect them. My mind was purely, terrifyingly clear. I slid out of bed, keeping my weight evenly distributed so the pressure sensors registered nothing more than a routine shift in sleep. I picked up my cane, which now held a heavy, rattling payload of red and yellow tablets inside its hollow core. Using a physical flaw I had discovered in the sliding bathroom track, I forced the door open just hard enough to send a vibration through the wall, tripping the bedroom's magnetic lock for a brief 3-second window. I slipped into the dark hallway. I crept into the kitchen, navigating by the low red nightlights along the baseboards. I knelt on the cold concrete floor. The pain in my hips was screaming like a white-hot spike, but I locked my jaw. Using my metal nail file, I silently unscrewed the plastic maintenance cover beneath the kitchen island. Inside lay the house's digital nervous system, a bird's nest of yellow high-voltage wires and gray data cables. I found the main gray input line that fed the sensors and touchscreens directly to the central processor in the garage. I didn't cut it. That would trip a system offline alarm. Instead, I gently scraped away the plastic insulation with my nail file until the copper strands were exposed. From my pocket, I pulled a metallic twist tie from a loaf of bread I had stolen from the trash. I wrapped one end around the bare copper and bridged the other to the metal grounding screw of the island's structural frame. Above me, the 13-inch main touchscreen hub flickered violently, its calm blue interface turning a jagged, strobing purple. System error," Iris stammered, her synthetic voice breaking into static. "Data loop 04 interrupted. Signal noise detected. Attempting rerouting." I stood up, my limbs trembling from the strain. The lagging interface was running incredibly slow, but I bypassed the security prompts by typing in the administrative override code I had memorized weeks ago while watching Clara tap it in. Michael's childhood dog and birth year, BUSTER 1981. The screen flashed, administrative level 02 granted. With a steady, calm, deliberate finger, I navigated to the automated medication dispenser profile for the master bedroom. I pulled up Clara's morning vitamin sequence. Clara was a hyper-efficient health nut who took a curated tray of supplements every day. I precisely copied my own chemical prescription profile, the heavy sedative and the vascular restrictor, and pasted it directly into Clara's morning tray. I set the dosage to maximum. Next, I entered the environmental controls. I isolated the master bedroom's ventilation zone, disabled the filtration cycle, and programmed the aerosol diffuser to release the same sedating compound into Clara's room during the day, masking it under the scent profile of lavender calm. I was rewriting the rules of my prison. Configuration changes saved, Iris murmured sluggishly. I pulled the grounding twist tie away and screwed the maintenance panel back into place. The screen smoothed out, returning to its deep blue standby light. I slipped back into my bedroom, my heart beating with the slow, rhythmic cadence of a soldier who had successfully mined the enemy's trenches. 2 weeks later, the transformation was spectacular. Clara sat at the kitchen island. Her hair was unwashed and pinned back in a chaotic bun. Her skin had turned a sallow grayish tint, and deep, dark purple bags hung heavy beneath her bloodshot eyes. Her hands shook so violently she could barely type on her laptop. "Iris!" Clara slurred, rubbing her throbbing temples. "Increase the kitchen lighting by 20%. It's too dark in here." "Kitchen illumination is already at 100%, Clara," the house replied. "Well, the sensors are wrong," Clara snapped, her voice cracking with pure exhaustion. "It feels like a cave." Michael walked in, adjusting his tie, his face tight with worry. "Honey, you look terrible. You didn't wake up for the alarm again. That's 3 days in a row you've slept through the morning check." I'm just stressed, Michael," Clara mumbled, her eyelids drooping heavily. "My head, it feels like it's full of wet sand every time I wake up." "Maybe you're catching whatever cognitive decline Mom has," Michael said, sighing. "Look at your coordination. It's shot." A flash of pure panic cut through Clara's glassy, unfocused eyes. The distinct terror of a control freak realizing she was losing control over her own body. "Don't be ridiculous," she whispered. "I just need my morning vitamins." She reached out and swallowed the 3 pills that had been automatically prepared by the dispenser. 2 yellow capsules, 1 round, red tablet. I sat directly across from her at the island. I looked radiant. My skin was a healthy pink, my eyes were sharp as needles, and I was deliberately chewing on a thick slice of toasted sourdough bread with real, salted butter, items I had manually added to the grocery logs via my override. I watched Clara swallow the final gulp of water. "You really should take those, Clara," I said. My voice was smooth, clear, and ringing with vitality. "You look so frail lately. Michael, don't you think Clara is retreating from her environment?" Michael froze, looking from his wife to me. "Mom, you sound different today." "My circulation is wonderful today, Michael. The air in my room feels so fresh, like summer." Clara stared across the island, and a horrific realization began to bloom behind her drugged, heavy eyes. She looked at the empty white cup. She looked up at the green light of the ceiling camera. "Iris," Clara whispered, her voice shaking. "Pull up my personal health metrics on the main screen." "Accessing profile, Clara Vance," the ceiling speaker reported. "Warning, administrative tier 01 credentials required. Current user tier, guest." The laptop slipped from Clara's numb fingers. "What? Iris, override code. Buster 1981? Invalid credential tier. Primary administration rights transferred to user profile. Bertha Vance on May 12th. Current system status, Safe House protocol active." Michael stepped back, his face turning pale. "Clara, what is going on? What is Iris talking about?" I set my toast down neatly on my plate. I stood up, without my cane. And I leaned over the black quartz island until my face was mere inches from Clara's. The forced maternal softness was gone entirely. My face was hard as Texas granite. "It means, Michael, that your wife has been having a very difficult time managing her health lately," I said. My voice was a low, terrifying purr. "Her motor skills are down 14%. She's simply no longer capable of managing this estate safely. You, Clara panted, her lungs fighting against the aerosol sedation blowing from the overhead vent. She tried to force herself to stand, but her knees buckled instantly, sending her crashing back into her chair, knocking over her water glass. You old bitch. You changed the... Don't use that tone in my house, Clara, I interrupted smoothly. Iris logs vulgar language as a symptom of emotional instability. We wouldn't want the system to flag you for a mandatory psychiatric evaluation, would we? Mom, Clara, stop it, Michael cried out, panicking as he yanked his phone from his pocket. I'm calling a doctor. Something is wrong with both of you. I didn't look at him. My hand snapped down onto his wrist with surprising, iron-like strength. Sit down, Michael. Michael froze, staring at my grip. He hadn't felt me hold him with that much physical authority since he was a child. Your phone won't work inside the house right now, son. I've activated the localized cellular filter. For our privacy, I said gently. We need to have a family meeting. One quiet meal, like we used to. Michael looked at Clara's sweating, terrified face, and then at my calm, brilliant expression. The awful, terrifying truth of what had been happening under his roof finally clicked into place. You were both doing it. You were both. She started the story, Michael, I said, turning toward the glowing wall panel. I'm just writing the ending. I tapped the glass interface with a steady index finger. Iris, initiate family transition protocol. Secure all perimeter exits. Set the master bedroom climate to 62 degrees and engage the continuous air filter profile for my zone only. And for Clara's zone, let's keep the lavender calm running at maximum efficiency. Protocol initiated, Iris responded cheerfully. Doors locked, smart tint set to maximum privacy. Clara Vance's health sequence is now fully automated. Have a safe day, Bertha. Outside in the hallway, the heavy front door engaged with a final, motorized whir thud. The automated window blinds throughout the sprawling home rolled down simultaneously, blocking out the fierce Texas sun, turning the interior into a cool, blue-lit vault. I turned back to face them. I smiled,
Michael eventually
a
left
warm,
the house,
beautiful,
but Clara,
completely terrifying
Clara
smile.
never truly recovered from her sudden
Now,
illness.
Michael,
Today, Bertha's
go get
home
your
remains
briefcase,
perfectly automated,
I said softly,
perfectly clinical,
gently
and
patting
perfectly
Clara's
quiet.
heavily
My
sedated
friend
shoulder.
kept her promise to her family.
You don't want to be
and
late for
I
your meeting.
have kept my
I'll
promise
stay
to her.
here and take
Some
excellent
secrets
care
are
of
meant
your
to be
wife.
taken to the grave.
After all,
Others
that's
are meant to be left
what
behind
family
walls.
is
Sleep
for.
well, Bertha.